Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today I'm going to be making some French country home decor using Amazon mailer bags. For my first project, I'm going to be using one of the Amazon mailer bags that I'm sure a lot of us have lying around the house, especially after Christmas. I'm going to begin by measuring the mailer bag and how much I'm going to actually be using. I did begin by marking at about 8 inches, but in the end I do end up deciding to go with 7 inches wide instead. But here I'm just measuring it out using my ruler and also taking into account some of the damage that there is to this mailer bag, the deep creases and things like that. But we are going for a bit more of a vintage look, so it doesn't matter too much. So I'm just going to draw a line with my ruler, and now I'm going to cut my bag to size. I'm also then going to trim off the other side of the Amazon envelope as well. Ultimately, my goal here is to create a beautiful folder or pouch that I can put, say, leftover bits of transfer or beautiful ephemera that I come across and put it into something nice. I'm now going to go in and I'm going to be trimming off some of the Amazon envelope. This is how tall our pouch is going to be, and now I'm working out how big the little flap that's going to go over the top is going to be. So I'm just going to continue to cut it to size until I'm happy with it. And if you're going to give this a try, it will be completely up to you how big you make this. Once I had it cut to the size that I wanted, I did begin to paint it. I'm going to be doing some decoupage, and it's always a good idea to have a nice light background behind your decoupage paper. But in the end, because I wanted to cover the bubble wrap on the inside as well, I decided that I would take out just some brown craft paper, and I'm going to be cutting this to the length of the Amazon envelope that I've cut out. I am going to leave a little seam or a little bit of extra paper around the edge, at least 1 centimeter around the edge. And I'm going to be doing this twice because I basically want to sort of sandwich that Amazon envelope in between these 2 bits of brown paper. Once I have my 2 bits of brown paper cut to size, I'm going to apply some of my Sealy's Quickset wood glue to either side of the mailer bag so that I can glue down my brown paper. Now, I went with brown paper so that it would be a nice blank canvas, but you could do this using wrapping paper, or you could go straight in with your decoupage paper. I went with brown paper to give it a bit more structure. Now I'm going around the edges and adding more glue so that I can glue those 2 bits of brown paper together. I gave my glue about half an hour to start to dry, and then I came in with my scissors and I trimmed off a little bit more around the edges just to sort of straighten it up and to make sure that I had about the same amount of paper all the way around the padded mailer. I then took out my little mini sewing machine, and I'm going to actually sew the sides of the paper together. Now my glue is completely dry. I let it dry for several hours. I just really wanted to give this a try. I'd seen quite a few of these little pouches on Pinterest, so I thought I'd give it a go. So right here I'm just making sure that I'm happy with that, and then once I'm happy with that, I decided I would sew the 2 bottom sides together to create our little pouch. I then took out Roycycled's pressed flowers decoupage paper. I've already cut out one of the designs from that particular decoupage paper, and here I'm just working out how much of it's going to go on the top flap and how much of it is then going to sit on the front down the bottom. I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Decoupage Medium in Matte. I'm going to apply a generous amount first to the top flap of our little pouch or folder, and then I'm going to be adding the decoupage paper into that wet medium. I did then gently go in with my fingers and press that down, and then I switched over to a ball of cling wrap to help smooth it out and make sure that I didn't have any wrinkles. And as you can see, I was able to lift up one of the corners to further smooth out that paper. I then moved on to the bottom section, and I'm positioning that down the bottom. There's going to be a little bit of a gap up the top, but you'll see shortly how I fix that problem. And then I'm going to press the decoupage paper into the medium. I do have the top and the bottom sections overlapping with the top and bottom sections of the folder so that it looks like the design sort of continues around. Now, some of you might be thinking, why did I sew that if I'm just going to end up covering it? I have never sewed paper together before, so it was definitely an experiment. I wasn't 100% happy with my lines. It will give the folder a bit more stability though, so I am glad that I did it. But I'll definitely be practicing and trying this technique out again in the future. It was definitely a lot of fun. So here I'm just going back over the top of the decoupage paper, and I'm then going to be taking out another piece of decoupage paper. This is an offcut from Roycycled's Flower Sacks decoupage paper, which I'll be using a little bit later. Here I'm just working out how much I'm going to need to cover up that gap. I really like these colors together, and I'm always a big fan of grain sack stripes. So here again, I'm just working out how much I'm going to need, and then once I have that cut to size, I'll repeat the same process as before, applying my decoupage medium where I want that to go, and then pressing that paper down into the wet product. Once I have the decoupage paper pressed down into the medium, I will be smoothing that out and then adding some more product, and I did end up cutting off the excess from each of the sides. When that was completely dry, I came in with my hot glue gun. I'm going to start off with the section there of the little overlapping flap there. I'm just going to add a line of the hot glue, and then I'm going to add in some lace that I found while thrifting, and I'm just going to stick that down. I really like this as a trim or sort of like a border. I think it definitely gives the piece a little bit more structure, and it definitely gives it a bit of a shabby chic or French country feel. I'm also going to add some glue down the side seam there, and I'm going to add some more of the lace. So I just sort of continue to add it around the edges, and I really do feel like it's a nice finishing touch. These little envelopes would make beautiful gifts, especially if you have other crafting friends. It's very low cost, and it really is something that you can customize completely. You can add any sort of design. You could have kept it plain if you just prefer the plain brown paper. You could paint a design on, and obviously I'm going in and adding lace here. You could leave that step out, or you could come in with twine. It really is up to you. It's definitely something that you can really personalize for yourself or for your loved one if you're going to give it as a gift. To keep the flap down, there's a few ways you could approach that. You could use some Velcro perhaps, maybe some sort of a snap close. I, however, am just going to be using this ribbon that I bought from a dollar store, and I am just going to tie a bow. This is a beautiful ribbon. This is how I'm going to do it. But as I said, there are lots of different ways that you could have this be something that closes up. But honestly, this definitely suits the purpose, and I think it's really pretty. And here's a look at our first finished project. I'm so pleased with how this turned out. As I said, I think it would make a beautiful gift. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For the second project, I'm going to begin by adding 2 coats of Paint Couture's Pacific Pearl chalk paint. I am going to be painting front and back of the padded mailer bag, and I actually really love the creases and the texture of these mailer bags. They definitely remind me of, say, like old feed sacks, which is perfect for this project and the decoupage paper that I'm going to be using. When my paint was dry, I took out Roycycled's Flower Sacks decoupage paper, and I'm cutting out the beautiful blue design. You'll recognize this paper from the first project, and I'm just creasing the paper around where I'm going to have to cut the bottom first of all. So I'm going to trim that off and set it off to the side, and here I'm just double checking the positioning of the paper. I'm then going to be using Paint Couture's decoupage medium in matte. I'm going to apply a generous coat. I'm making sure that I also get it down in the creases of the mailer bag so that there's product there for when I work the paper into that texture. So I've applied a generous amount. I'm then going to press the decoupage paper down onto the mailer. And I did begin by using my fingers to press that down, but I then took out a ball of cling wrap and I'm going to use that to help me really press that paper down into all of those creases, and using the cling wrap means that there's less friction and less chance of ripping. I then flipped it over. I'm going to apply some decoupage medium. And then I'm actually just going to use my scissors to cut a little line up the top where that paper is going to stop, and then I'm going to fold the paper around the back. This is just going to be a neat little finish. You're not going to see the back for the purpose of this. I'm envisioning this as a little sort of storage bag or pockets sort of situation that's going to hang on a hook on the wall, so you're not going to see the back, so I'm not too worried. I'm then going to trim off the paper from the top section, and again I always save all of my offcuts because I always end up using them, and we'll be using it a bit later in this project. I'm then going to go over the top of the decoupage paper with another coat of that decoupage medium to seal it all in. Next, I'm going to make some cuts in the mailer bag so that I can fold the top section in and get a much nice and neater top area. So almost like a seam when you're dealing with like a tote bag. So I'm just going to fold that over, and then I'm going to use my hot glue gun to attach that and get those folded sections to stay down. I'll then be repeating the same process for the other side of the mailer bag. I then added some more decoupage medium to the inside section that we folded over, and I'm also just double checking that any of those other pieces on the other side are all stuck down. And then I'm going to take some of the scraps that we cut off, and I'm going to press that in there so that when you're looking at the bag, when it's hanging or wherever it's going to go, you will still be able to see some of that flower sack decoupage design. You're not going to see the inside of that Amazon envelope. I'm then going to add some more product so that I can fold it over the edge. When the decoupage medium was dry, I took out my little hole punch. I'm going to work it over the top of that Amazon mailer bag so that I can make a hole in the back section on each of the sides. I then took out some more of that ribbon that I used in the first project. I'm going to press that through the holes that we made, and I'm going to tie a knot. So this is going to function as the handle. So once I've done that side, I'm going to repeat the same process on the other side, cutting it to the length that I want, pushing it through the little hole, and then tying another knot. And here's our second finished project. This was a quick and easy project, but I think it was very effective. I could imagine this hanging on a hook in the kitchen or perhaps near an entryway. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For our final project today, I'm going to be cutting my Amazon mailer in half, and then I'm going to come in with that same Pacific Pearl that I used in the previous project, and I'm going to be applying 2 coats on each side of the mailer bag. My goal for this project was to create a sort of pot for faux florals from, say, IKEA. But as I was using the Pacific Pearl, it did feel a little bit too stark for the look that I was going for. So once it was dry, I did switch over to Buttercream chalk paint by Paint Couture. I just really loved this for more of a vintage look. So I did end up doing 2 coats of this on each side of the mailer. You could definitely use a different color if this wasn't colorful enough. I then took out my grain stencils by JRV. I will link those in the description below, and I'm using Paint Couture's Pitch Black chalk paint. I'm also using a 1-inch JRV stencil brush. I don't need this to come out pristine or perfect because I'm going for a bit more of a vintage look, and I am going to end up doing a bit of distressing later anyway. Always remember to offload your paint as well. Next, I used some 220 grit sandpaper to distress the image. This is going to add to that vintage feel. Next, I need to get it looking a bit more like a fabric pot. So I'm going to actually bend over the corners of the mailer bag. You can see I'm sort of pushing it down from the inside and then pulling the corner bits together in the center. And I'm just sort of having a play here until I'm happy with the shape and how wide that is. And then I took out my hot glue gun and I'm going to apply hot glue to each of the corners that I'm folding in. Now, a lot of the stencil design is going to be a bit hidden underneath, but that's okay. It really doesn't matter. If this is something that's going to worry you, maybe make the pot and do the stenciling afterwards. I then added some hot glue around the top part of the pot, and I'm going to start folding over the edges just to give it a nice neater finish up the top. And I'm just going to repeat that same process, adding that hot glue to the inside section of the mailer bag and then folding the edges over. This is just a nice touch that makes it look a little bit more finished. I then took out my buttercream again and I decided that I was going to paint the inside of the mailer bag so that it was less obvious that it was an Amazon envelope, and I ended up doing 2 coats for this. Now I am going to be putting a little faux IKEA plant in this, but it definitely makes it look more like a finished product, and if you can sort of see through the leaves, it's not going to look odd to see that there's bubble wrap in there. So this is definitely a step that I think is a good choice. And to seal this, I just used a spray sealer, but you could definitely just brush on some sort of a clear coat if you're worried about that. I then decided that I wanted to add some twine around the top edges of our little pot there. So I'm just going to start adding lines of hot glue around the edges and just winding that twine around the top and over the top of the glue. I ended up going around 3 times. This is a step you can leave out, or you could come in with some ribbon, just really anything that's going to suit your style. Twine really fit in, I felt, with the sort of French country vintage vibe. So that's definitely what I went with. Once I finished adding the twine, I then brought the 2 end pieces together and I just tied a simple bow. And here's a look at our finished pot. I love how this turned out. Not only is it inexpensive, but I think it goes really well with my IKEA plant. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video and that it has given you ideas on how you can use those Amazon mailer bags to create beautiful home decor for your home. Let me know if you had a favorite project from today. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find most of the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.